According to new reports, the State Department plans on opening an Office of Remigration. Basically, it's associated with the far-right plan of having people return to their country of origin. This is happening at the same time as we see immigration court judges dismissing immigration cases in order to make it easier for either ICE to come and grab the people who just had their cases dismissed, or harder for people who were already sent to the El Salvadorian prison to contest that deportation, kidnapping, whatever term you want to use. The fact is, this is all happening under the Trump regime. My name is Dina Doll with the MeidasTouch Network. Let's break this all down. We're seeing a concerted effort. Again, this is all about brown people, people of color. Trump is doing the opposite with the South, the white Afrikaners. He's also keeping people here from Ukraine, which you could say possibly because of the fact that they are in the middle of a war, but probably maybe because of the color of their skin. Lots of developments in immigration, but this latest one, according to reports, 100-page memo was sent to 6 congressional committees talking about this new office. And according to this new office, the State Department funds will be used to intra-agency policy work to advance the president's immigration agenda, and will use the money from the State Department to actively facilitate the voluntary return of migrants to their country of origin or legal status. This is, of course, like a very scary development for those of us who care and value people who come to this country. I've said it many times. My father was an immigrant to this country, ended up going to college here, working for the government his entire life. But under Trump, immigrants are like the scourge of our society. He's not talking about criminals. We're well past any pretext with that. He's talking about people who are here legally. He's revoked the temporary protected status for hundreds of thousands of Venezuelans. He's revoked the humanitarian parole status for hundreds of thousands of Nicaraguans, Cubans, Haitians. This is about getting out people of color in this country, and they are using every means possible. We saw the Supreme Court step in and say, you can't do this under the Alien Enemies Act yet until we figure out basically the underlying law, putting a pause on the deportation. So what has happened is instead we see them going into court, the immigration lawyers going into court and requesting the dismissal of the immigration cases that these immigrants are dealing with. And the reason why they do that is because then they no longer have a legal case. So there is less of a due process, right? You don't have a lawyer. You don't have a legal case. You don't have standing. It becomes much harder to contest your deportation when you don't have a deportation order against you. And this, again, one of the men sent to the El Salvadorian prison was the gay Venezuelan man who was sent there. And his family only knew about it, right? Because the government has never even put out an official list. They only knew about this from the photos and all of the journalists gathering the evidence. And now they just found out that the government dismissed the case against him. His name is Andre Hernandez Romero, and the government has just dismissed the case against him. What does that now mean for him? It makes it much harder for him to have a case to ask for his return. At this point, you have to start getting really creative as a lawyer. Now you have to argue that he was kidnapped by the federal government, that he was taken without due process. That is literally the definition of kidnapping, if you're the unlawful detainment of somebody, which is not in an immigration court. This is in a federal court, right? You make it harder. They make it more difficult for people to be able to defend and assert their rights. And they are doing this on purpose. We are also seeing them just dismiss cases, and then ICE shows up at the court and arrests the people. One, this is going to make it harder for people to come and show up to their immigration cases because they know ICE is there to catch them, which makes it more difficult because if you don't show up to your immigration hearing as an immigrant, you are in violation of it. And then you risk losing any legal status, any path to legal status. This is the point. You are scaring people out of legally obtaining the right, the citizen right, or other kind of asylum right to live here. Take a listen to what the Venezuelan man who was sent to El Salvador and was just having his case dismissed. Take a listen to what his family had to say.
Tonight, a mother in Venezuela speaks out against the deportation and imprisonment of her son, saying she hasn't heard from him in weeks, and she cries wondering about his fate. Andri Hernandez Romero was among the 238 Venezuelans deported without court hearings under the Alien Enemies Act to an infamous mega prison in El Salvador.
So this is a young man that I had followed.
60 Minutes identified Hernandez in these photos taken by an American journalist. Records filed in court by his attorneys show that he had no known criminal record when he entered the U.S. last year to seek asylum over what he described as discrimination for his sexual orientation. However, ICE officials indicated that they suspected him of belonging to a Venezuelan gang solely because of these tattoos. An officer writing, "The crown has been found to be an identifier for a Tren de Aragua gang member." But experts say Tren de Aragua does not use tattoos as markers of membership.
Una bella persona.
And Hernandez's family says his tattoos have an innocent explanation.
Sí.
Hernandez is from a small town with a century-old tradition of staging an elaborate festival for Three Kings Day. Reina Cárdenas is his close childhood friend.
Él es un artista.
She says the festival awakened Hernandez's interest in theater, beauty, and fashion. He often designed costumes and did makeup in addition to acting in the festivities. His tattoos of crowns, she says, are a reference to the Three Kings. Later, Hernandez worked as a makeup artist for a state-run TV station in Caracas, where, according to his lawyers, he suffered discrimination for his identity as a gay man.
Eso nos preocupa inmensamente, de verdad.
His family says the treatment he might receive in prison over his sexual orientation keeps them up at night. The White House did not respond to our request for comment. On X, a DHS spokesperson said Hernandez's social media indicates he's a gang member, but she didn't reference any specific posts, and we found no indication of gang activity on his socials. As attention on the case grows, support for Hernandez coming from some unexpected places, including podcaster Joe Rogan.
Again, that's bad for the cause. Like, the cause is, let's get the gang members out. Everybody agrees. But let's not innocent gay hairdressers get lumped up with the gangs. Is there any plan in place to alert the authorities that they've made a horrible mistake and correct it?
Señor Dios Todopoderoso.
Residents of Hernandez's hometown holding regular vigils to call for his release, many wearing paper crowns.
David Noriega joins us tonight from Los Angeles. So with his family in Venezuela, who's working on Mr. Hernandez's behalf to get him, if the administration can't prove he's a gang member?
Well, Tom, Hernandez already had a pro bono immigration lawyer when he was in immigration detention here in the United States before he was removed to El Salvador. That's actually the way that the family found out he had been deported to this mega prison in the first place, because he didn't show up to a hearing in his asylum case. Now, I've spoken to his immigration lawyers, and they say that they're pursuing multiple legal avenues to try and get him out of that prison. But they say this is a legally unprecedented situation. Never before has the U.S. deported people to third countries under the Alien Enemies Act. They have no access to him in this facility, and they say it's not even clear which court has jurisdiction over his case.
Now, according to news reports, Marco Rubio's plan to have this new Office of Remigration also includes the elimination of the Democracy, Human Rights, and Labor Bureau's regional offices. These are offices that were there to protect human rights, but they are eliminating that and instead appointing a new Deputy Assistant Secretary who will oversee the Office of Natural Rights to, quote, build the foundation for criticisms of free speech backsliding in Europe and other developed nations. So we are seeing Trump and Project 2025 doing the same playbook on multiple levels, right? The Civil Rights Division at the DOJ has been gutted, and no longer is it about protecting people's civil rights or protecting people's right to vote, but now it's instead about infringing on people's civil rights and making it more difficult for people to vote, as we just saw with the DOJ suing North Carolina to try to purge people off their validly registered registration rolls, right? And then going after universities as well. So we're seeing this here with their immigration. Instead of protecting people's human rights, now they are going to try to talk about free speech infringement, which, as we know, has been a pretext for deporting people who don't like Trump or don't like Trump's policies. This is our free speech in our country, I think, as we all know, is a core foundation of our rights. Because if you cannot speak freely, if I cannot speak freely, right, on MeidasTouch or on other platforms, then that is how you stop the free flow of information. If I can only say something that Trump likes, then information is suppressed and nobody knows what they should resist. Nobody knows what they should vote and not vote against. When you have legacy media like ABC News and 60 Minutes appearing to enter into a settlement agreement with Trump's bogus $20 billion lawsuit against him, then he's already doing his job, let's say, in suppressing free speech and legacy media. How you suppress free speech of every single individual person, you start with the most vulnerable among us. And the most vulnerable among us are international students, are immigrants. And this is where that fight is. But here at the MeidasTouch Network, we are going to shine a light on it because being informed and talking about it is the very thing they are trying to stop. So it's not doing nothing by staying informed. It is doing the very thing they are afraid of. So be sure to free subscribe because we're not going to stop talking about what the State Department is doing. The attacks on our immigrants that provide millions of dollars, billions of dollars actually in taxes. They pay billions of dollars in taxes. They contribute to our economy. Elon Musk is on X all the time talking about the declining birth rate. The United States of America has never had to worry about a declining birth rate because we have been a place immigrants have wanted to come, and immigrants end up being the lifeblood of our country and contribute to our economy and grow our GDP. When you try to kick out immigrants under a pretext, then you end up hurting our economy, hurting all of us. And we are seeing this in real time. We are seeing ICE round up workers, construction workers. Many construction workers are immigrants, not criminals, working immigrants. Take a look at this latest video of ICE trying to round up working immigrants.
Get on the ground! Get on the fucking ground! Give me your hand! Give me your hand! Give me your hand! On in!
Voglio verga comunque di che voglio ice Diego ice voglio verga a ver qué rollo con el pollo.
I'm going to keep reporting on the attacks on our immigrants, and you can keep on sharing these videos. And if you haven't subscribed yet, be sure to subscribe so you stay updated, in the loop, and informed, which is exactly the thing Trump doesn't want you to be.
Love this video? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch and help us blow past 1 million followers.